Okay, look, we have all been there. We pick up our phone to look up something useful and we put it down 2 hours later with the urge to take up beekeeping and an unexplained prejudice about a people we have never heard about before. And it's like, we don't like the Lilliputians now. Like, I can't stand these Lilliputians with the way they eat their eggs. Oh my God, they better not come around here. And that is what happens when you go to look up a biscuit recipe and you end up on Elon's Twitter. You need to stay away from there. It'll have you hating people that you never even knew about and don't live anywhere near you. Okay, first and only Elon jab. But this is the example of the dark side of our phone. Yes, I know about the increased suicide, the depression, the mind viruses spreading like wildfire, the government surveillance, the corporate surveillance, and the scams that perpetuate over our phone. But there's also another dark side to the phone that just slips under the radar. And it's just not a good replacement for physical media. It just is not a good replacement. The phone, it claims to be able to do all of these things, and it can, but it is limited by its user, and its user is us, and we are very limited. Maybe I'm a little bit more limited than some of you, but I'm certainly not an outlier. Researching on your phone is like getting a salad from McDonald's. You can do it, but you probably won't. No one wants the salad at McDonald's. And if you go to McDonald's, you're not going to get the salad. You're going to get the Big Mac. It tastes better and it's more calorie dense. We're just not designed to go to McDonald's and order the salad. And don't come up in the comments with like, oh, but I get the salad when I go to McDonald's, because no, you don't. They stopped serving the salad because nobody wants it. Remember when people thought that if we just give people healthier options, they're going to choose the healthier options? That's insane. That social experiment has completely failed. It's just not true. How many iPhones would Apple sell if you could only use them to find things that were good for you? What's Apple? Ask a person who lives in a universe that is like that, because Apple went out of business years ago. So I'm here to support physical media. Now, it's not popular, but we have been running this phone experiment for a few decades now, and the results seem to be obvious. They just seem to be obvious. Reading on the phone is not the same as reading a book or even a Kindle book, and watching a movie streaming is not the same as owning a DVD or even having the file for it. The reasons, first one we just discussed. You get distracted. I get distracted. We all get distracted. Then we flip around to see what else is on, and our attention spans shrink. It shrinks until our goldfish is having an easier time holding a thought than we are. Did you know that goldfish, they don't actually have small attention spans? That's just anti-goldfish propaganda. It's probably spread by those Lilliputians out there. You can't trust those people. That is a Gulliver's Travel reference, by the way. I'm not racist against this group that no one's ever heard of. Anyway, we have seen over and over in the past decade that using a device to learn has actually hindered our learning. We have put the tablets in schools and education has not improved. In fact, it has gotten worse. But that probably has a lot to do with the COVID lockdowns and a generation of kids raised by their parents who are also on the phone. So there are many, many variables there. But it's also the tablets. The tablets themselves do not work well for education because kids get distracted. There's so many studies about how kids just get distracted. And adults who were educated before computers and phones and tablets, has it helped them to read more? No, we are living in a post-literacy era. People do not read more. They can read more, but they are not doing it. They're reading less and they're watching more reels because people just do the easiest thing to quench that boredom thirst. The hypothesis was that if we made knowledge more available, then more people would consume it. Well, that kind of half works because they're consuming more information, but information isn't necessarily knowledge. And rather than rising to the occasion and guiding our fellow citizens to higher goals, our tech giants, these tech billionaires, found it more profitable to just give the people what they want on a primal level, which is shiny objects. That's, we got food, you got booty, you got clothes, you got memes. That's what people want to see. And yes, some people do exercise self-control, but it's not the majority. It's definitely a minority of people, which is why they're seeing the decline in reading that we are. And you know what? No judgment for me, because I have never ordered the salad at McDonald's. I go to McDonald's once a decade and I get the Big Mac. It's a road trip thing. I got to do it, okay? So that hypothesis has failed. It has failed. The digital learning hypothesis, the digital learning experiments has failed. Is there any way to put the genie back in the bottle? And no, not that I can see, unfortunately. You can personally switch back to physical media, but as a society, I just don't see that it's happening. The only way that I see that it could possibly happen is if the dead internet theory actually comes true, if it hasn't already come true. Now, the dead internet theory says that at some point, the internet will just be populated with bots and not people. So us people, actual people, will have no choice but to go outside and touch some grass. I do not have enough faith that real people will leave the digital bot matrix, even if it is a dead internet. Because look, enough men are still addicted to porn and they choose porn over women, that I think that people will just take the blue pill and decide to stay in this fantasy land. Otherwise, you have to compete with an unfair and sometimes very cruel world. And I think a lot of people just can't do that. But that having been said, I do think that the dead internet theory offers some hope, this much hope. And I still wouldn't bet on it for the majority because I have just gotten so cynical in my old age. Now, on an individual level, I think that a lot of individuals will stop using the internet if there's no point and it's populated by bots. But the majority, we'll see. And I don't want to hear that physical media is just too much stuff, because Americans have not stopped consuming junk over these past few decades. They don't care about the environment. They don't care about the giant garbage patch in the middle of the Pacific Ocean or the sea turtles. Nobody cares. They don't care. They will just spend as much as their money allows on whatever. So, but you should buy physical books and physical media. And if you're afraid that you'll become a hoarder and you'll have a house filled with junk, just give your books and media away when you're all done with it. Just give them away to your friends. And honestly, from extensive sociological research that I have done, it's hoarders. I just watch hoarders. Anyway, people will hoard anything. It doesn't have to be books. Some people are out there hoarding books. Some people are out there just hoarding trinkets, plastic things that they find. I don't think that one much has to do with the other, actually. Plus, there are still libraries. I don't go to the library, but I do watch police body cams, and a lot of those are set at the library. A lot of these public freakouts are set at the library. So I feel that's a good snapshot of where we are in 2025. I feel that is a good snapshot. I actually like to buy my books because I like to mark them up. You've seen my book notes. There's sarcastic comments in the corner, and you can't do that to a library book. So that's why I like to buy physical books. But I'm done, let my friend borrow them, and I'll never give them back. Now, I know it sounds extreme to switch to physical media or to consume more physical media, and it sounds actually kind of difficult, but there are actually good reasons to do it. One, people take down online articles. They stop paying their website fee and the whole thing goes down. And maybe you can find it on the Wayback Machine, but most people are not going to look there and to see if they can find it. That article is just gone. It's just lost. My grandma used to actually cut out physical magazine articles and paste them in a scrapbook. And I thought she was crazy. But if you want to commit something to memory, do that, because we see that the scrolling, it's just in one ear and out the other, in one eye and out the other. I don't know how you would do that with scrolling, but you know what I mean. It's the same concept. Of course, we don't really get magazines like that anymore. So, I mean, you could, in theory, you could get a magazine. That was her time. That's what they did in her time. And cutting out is a lot more deliberate as well. Pressing the bookmark button is very easy, but how often do you go to your Instagram bookmarks? I am genuinely asking you that because I am such a post hoarder on my bookmarks that I'm afraid to even go in there. It's like the garage that's packed with stuff on hoarders. So what I can do when I really, really want to commit something to memory, if it's a recipe, I'll actually write it down in my recipe book. And those get a lot more traction than anything on Pinterest or Instagram. Now, I understand if you are writing a thesis paper, if you're writing your dissertation, you cannot print out all these articles. What you can do is save them as PDFs on your computer, so at least you have them the way they were when you first read it, and they're not going to change it or take it down. And that brings me to another reason, is that things are actively censored. They are actively changed. You know, I am not a conspiracy theorist, but I have seen this happen with books. For example, the first edition of this book on calls. The first edition of this book that is not, I thought was around me, but it's not around me. It made people so mad that they had to take out a lot of the references and a lot of the names. So the second edition doesn't have all of those details. And that's much easier to do over the computer. So I'm wondering how much of the Mandela effect is actually people just updating the original documents. I don't know. That's a study for you. That is a really good social psychology dissertation. If you write it, let me know. I'll review it on my channel. Now, my final beef, and perhaps my biggest beef, is with online streaming movies and music. They made it so that we don't own DVDs or VHSs anymore. Okay, good. There's less waste. Okay. But now if I buy a movie, I don't actually buy that movie. It goes into my Apple library. And this was bad because a few months ago when the power went down because of the fires, I didn't have access to my Apple library because we didn't have internet. So when I was a kid, you could pop a DVD into the laptop and you could actually watch that movie. But that's not even an option anymore. The music that we listen to, it's all on Spotify or Apple Music, and you have to pay. You have to pay every single month to have access to it. Now, I sound like an old man yelling out a cloud, but you used to buy an album. You used to download an album and you put it on your MP3 player, or you could make a mixtape for your friends. Now you have to pay Apple to hold it for you. Why is Apple holding my stuff for me? Now, not a conspiracy theorist, but isn't it funny that the same company that took the CD and DVD player off of the laptop, they're also now holding my music and my movies, and I'm paying them to do this? They used to have the iPod. No iPod anymore. Anyway, people did used to have movie collections, book collections, album collections. If you wanted to watch a movie, you would sit down with your friends and you would watch that movie. And you didn't have a cell phone, you didn't have a laptop, so you couldn't be scrolling through Instagram and also playing poker while you're trying to watch that movie. You all had to watch that movie, and you couldn't stop halfway through to look up IMDb. Okay? If you didn't know who the character was in the movie, you and your friends just had to fight about it. You had to fight about it, and that would take you hours, and that was just fun banter back and forth. Now you just stop and you look it up on IMDb, and it cuts off that banter. It just cuts it right off. I know, maybe technically that is an improvement, but I don't think it is. I think it's making us have so much less fun than we used to have. We used to just have more fun, and we don't have that much fun anymore. So what am I saying? We should go back to 2010. If we all just go back to 2010, okay? We go back to 2010, we decide we are not advancing past 2010. That was the peak. That was the end of it. I'm kidding. I know that's not an option. But I still like having access to movies. I don't like the streaming services controlling what people see, what is available, because those are run by the finance people and the tech people. They are not artists. They're not curators. Shudder is an exception, but that is only horror. If you don't have Shudder, check it out. It's actually a really well curated streaming service for horror movies. And you can tell people care. They don't care at Netflix. They don't care at Amazon. They really don't care at Amazon. I want to move into that. My favorite movie of all time, my favorite movie is not on any US streaming service anymore. It's called The Wild Hunt, and it's a Canadian drama. It's a brilliant movie, very Shakespearean, but it doesn't get enough play to get on any of the streaming services. Years ago, it was on Netflix, but it's not anywhere anymore. It's just, if you're not in Canada, you can't find it. We looked. This movie is just lost, and that's a shame because it really is a brilliant, brilliant film. It's this live action role-playing movie about avoiding your life and the drama that comes with avoiding your life. It's just fantastic. There's real life drama from working class people, not some rich producers' idea of what family drama is. I hate watching rich people's idea of family drama because most of the time when rich people have family drama, they just need to sit down and talk about it. They just need to sit down and talk about it a little. This is why I'm like half done watching movies. I'm serious. And that got me to thinking, how many more movies are just not streaming? And part of that is Blockbuster failing because Netflix came in, and that failed at about the same time where the technology allowed more people to make movies. So would Blockbuster have carried all the movies that are out there? I don't know. It's a different era. You can't really make the comparison. Nevertheless, I can't find The Wild Hunt on streaming, and it seems as though it's just been killed. It's just been killed in society. And this goes along with the streaming services and the studios failing to maintain our culture because it's not profitable. They don't have a higher calling towards great art. They're not here to serve civilization. They're just here to make more money. So I get they're not going to carry this great film if people aren't watching it. And it sucks. They're contributing to our cultural plummet, but they don't care as long as they can pay the mortgage. I think the switch from physical to streaming media is just one drop in the bucket of why our culture is slowly dying. Now, if I can get serious for a moment, just for a moment, we don't like to think of our own mortality, let alone the mortality of our civilization, but we're not going to be here forever. Neither us as individuals or as a country. What will be left when that happens, when it's all over? Plastics will be left. But your picture isn't on plastics. Your picture is on the phone. And by that point, even in 50 years, your phone is going to be a complete brick. It's going to be useless. Do you have a picture of your dead grandmother? Do you have one? Probably you do. Because maybe she only took 5 pictures in her whole life and they were nice pictures and she made copies of them. There are maybe hundreds of pictures of you, but you haven't printed them out. And are your grandkids going to see any of them? They're not going to have a picture of you on their phone if they never met you. So it's really important that you print out pictures that you like. You print them out at the CVS and you put them in a book in case the power ever goes out and you have to flip through your book. But think about, let's say 2,000 years from now. 2,000 years from now and our whole civilization is gone and we are a memory of a memory of a memory. What are people going to have to look to for us? They're not going to have an iPhone charger. Okay, if it's not chiseled in stone, they're not going to see it. Maybe if it's in plastic. And then they're going to think that The Rock was like our God King because we just have pictures of him everywhere on our cups. And they don't know about the McDonald's cups, but that's why we have pictures of The Rock everywhere. He is not our God King. Is he? Is he though? Is he our God King? That's a good question. Anyway, the phone is fleeting and you deserve more than fleeting. Yes, our lives are fleeting, but the great works of man have been attempts to overcome our mortality and make something that lives after we die, like the statue of David, for example. Sculptor, long dead, David still lives. Michelangelo, long dead, David still lives. Don't even get me started as to what social media does to artists, okay? They're not making things for the ages anymore. They're not even developing the skills that would allow them to make things for the ages because that's not how you get popular on social media. It's actually really sad. It's a tragedy. It's a real tragedy that our culture is dying this way because there are a lot of talented people out there. It's just that it's what gets attention. It's not what is good. Anyway, my point is that the phone is fleeting, even more fleeting than our mortal lives, which are themselves quite fleeting. You scroll through pictures and jokes and reels, and you don't really commit many to memory. And your life should not be that way. Even if you are that way to other people, your life should not be that way to your friends and to your family. So make the effort. What you can do about it is make the effort. Buy a book for your friend and write in the front cover, "Hey, I love you." Read something, you know? That's a evidence that you existed. Actual evidence that you existed. A lot of people are going to leave this world with no physical evidence that they were ever here. You can print out pictures and put them in an album. You can even have an album printed online and give it to your mother for Mother's Day. Mothers love picture albums. You can write a journal or make a piece of art that will pass down through the generations. Basically, don't go quietly into that digital good night. Thank you. Subscribe.